Hey, what's happening, guys? Your boy AK, Rex here, and as everybody has been requesting, I got Joshua Ballze with me. We are using this awesome T-Rex and Velociraptor from, for the wallpaper because I'm not able to give you a proper video just yet. Everything is kind of just going, a little bit difficult with this side of things. So I thought if you want to look at something, you might as well look at something good. Josh, welcome as always.
Thanks, man. Yeah, no, I was surprised to hear that I was getting requested.
Well,
That's new for me.
to be honest, it's actually not new for me at all. I've been hearing the reason why I think I've just decided to just be like, you know what, let's just get the guy back here because I have actually been asked multiple times. People really are curious. It seems that people like listening to you, so I think I must deliver. So here we are. Now, guys, today the topic of discussion, this part is only one of the multiple parts, by the way, so make sure you stick around for more parts, but this is going to be the part one since it's the first one we're recording and we're not going to be editing, so it's 100% raw, hardcore footage.
It's
So
real, man.
it's
It's all
real,
real.
yeah. Yeah. So let's just talk about Jurassic Park slash World. Although to me it's always gonna be Park because I do not accept all other nonsense. I just accept the originals. But let's just talk about all of this stuff and just tell people what we think. So since you're the guest, I want you to start and open up and just tell me briefly what are your main pet peeves with the current state of the franchise.
I want to say just all of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's
Just
a
a
good
blanket,
opener.
just a blanket state. All of it, just all of it. But it's a giant pet peeve for me. So, yeah, no, I haven't been a fan of the new franchise direction since the first film, and it's ironic because people have been more accepting of the film franchise for the second film, but at the same time, the second film was also regarded as one of the worst of the new franchise. And I'm just sitting there like, well, then stop supporting it if you guys don't like where it's going.
Yeah, I know, right? Stop giving it your money.
Yeah, like stop. I just don't understand. And then the thing that killed me the most was that we lost the Jurassic Park ride proper, and that was a huge blow to me. I haven't even been on the new ride, but I've seen video and all the changes that they've made. Oh no, I take that back. I have been on the new ride. Yeah, see, that's how underwhelming it was. I couldn't even remember if I went on the ride or not.
Not much
So,
worth remembering, I presume. So, like,
yeah,
is it like mostly CGI and stuff like that?
it's not so much that it's for all the brouhaha that they did about the new ride, the changes weren't even worth what they did to the ride, because there was rumble about the ride being dated, which it is. I mean, it was being developed before the first film was even being developed. And it's funny because in the Q video, you can actually see, well, you used to be able to see, I think you can only see it in Florida now with the Islands of Adventure. They actually use the same sets to cut a lot of the video where you're interacting with the veterinarians and the engine operators, because they were filming it while they were filming the actual video, the actual movie.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's scenes where you see the technical guys, like the IT guys, and that's the actual set where you have Dennis Nerdry and Samuel L. Jackson's character and Muldoon and everybody's in there. And then you have a scene where there's a veterinarian, an actual dinosaur veterinarian that's worked with dinosaurs, unlike Fallen Kingdom. And
We'll get to
she's
that in a moment.
yeah, and she's talking with you, and it does this great split screen where she's talking with you in front of the sick trike with the JP Explorer in the background, and those are actually the movie used JP Explorers and the sick trike that was used just, I don't know how soon or how afterwards they were filmed for the movie. So there's a lot of that stuff that's tied with the first best movie that's kind of just gone for the revamp. And it's just weird. Like the new ride is just it's very underwhelming. There's only maybe 3 new animatronics The Mosasaur is a screen Mosasaur. It's very underwhelming. It doesn't have the wow factor of a giant 100-foot tall animatronic robotic dinosaur. Um, and then the all the inter like there's no real interactions with Blue for the for with the blue Velociraptor character.
Mm-hmm.
Shy of they repainted one of the old Velociraptors, which was the drop down gag when you're going up to do into the facility to do the main drop, and the new Blue animatronic is kind of there but not, like it pops out and it starts barking, and there's two Indominus Rex animatronics. It's all just kind of like blah.
Yeah, I wish I was there to actually be able to just like be like nodding to everything, be like, "Yep, I saw that. Yep, I saw that." But last time I was on the ride actually was like 2014. Yeah, so it was still the old ride. It was still good. I mean, it needed, of course, some things that I would have thought could be improvement, but I just didn't think it needed a complete remake to completely just restyle it to the new thing, because I think they should have just kept the old stuff and they could have really improved on it so much. I mean, if you're gonna be putting, here's the thing, okay? Correct me if I'm wrong, because you work in Hollywood, you know how these things work basically and how much it costs and all of that kind of nonsense. But you know
Yeah.
these things better than I do. But you will be able to tell me whether or not it would have been possible if they were to really approach it more seriously and more kind of with the idea of delivering to to the fans. Imagine if you were able to reproduce at least, or to the best degree possible, to reconstruct the animatronics like from the second movie, with T-Rexes, and just have them have their heads, like pop out from one side and then have the other one pop out from a different side, or have like an actual. Try to come up maybe with a cool attraction where you could like do multiple stages where you have to move from one set to another and experience these scenes from the movie, and have the sit down and buckle up inside the trailer, and then you would be like attacked by these T-Rexes and flung about a little bit. That would have been awesome, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, no, I mean there's so many much more better ideals
There's just too many ideas, and I don't
that
understand
could have
why
been
not to do it.
used. I mean
Yeah.
the biggest one we thought we were gonna do, the biggest creature that's probably the most famous of the new movie franchise is the Mosasaurus.
Yeah.
It's pretty much become the jaw of the guys. Of things we didn't,
Yeah,
because this
just
was a
give
hit
it
of a
give it a few
movie.
seconds.
We
Give it
have
a
the
few
water
seconds.
world.
Sorry. Give it a few seconds. Two
Okay.
seconds. It's a raw footage, so we might be experiencing some lags from time to time. Okay. Do this one again. So it was the Mosasaurus and.
Yeah, so the Mosasaurus, it's a pretty big critter, and we of all the things to kind of redo, we were kind of looking at each other like, well, why didn't you just take uh, the Waterworld stunt ride, because that's a memorable movie. You
Right.
know? Install this really cool interactive like Mosasaur encounter type of thing on the first level of the theme park, because that's kind of the whole shtick of the whole first movie is like that you have this SeaWorld type environment with the actress playing the person talking about the Mosasaur, and it jumps up and it eats the shark, and it's worldish. And I'm like, yeah, just do that with the stunt ride, man. Like we have water-based animatronics. I mean, we have Jaws, the ride that's been working since the movie got released.
They could even, what they could do with this? They could, I don't know if they've done it, but I haven't seen any pictures because I follow this actress, Courtney Clark, the one who played the
Oh
girl who
yeah,
was,
yeah.
I follow her as well, and she hasn't posted anything of this sort, so I presume they haven't done anything about it, but they could have easily just hired her to do it, just to kind of bring in more people in, because that would have been actually a lot more interesting. She seems, I mean, I watch her stories sometimes, and she seems like a very charming and very well kind of literate, presentable, kind of person, good looking, so I just don't see why not. And you know how young actresses are, they always look for, every actor in Hollywood who is starting out probably looks for work, so why not to do something like this? And because it's related to the franchise as well, it makes perfect sense.
No, yeah, I mean, you could have easily hired Courtney to do like interactive videos and stuff like that. Kind of what they do with the ride to begin with. Like, there's footage there of Chris Pratt and Dallas Howard is in the ride. Though, if you go on a sunny day, again, because the people that did this revamp, you could tell it was just a money grab to kind of gut the ride of the animatronics they couldn't use or didn't want to fix and just kind of stick screens everywhere.
Yeah.
Because during the ride, like there are a lot of screen gags in the ride. The Mosasaurus is the biggest screen gag, and then you pass by what used to be known as the Mickey Mouse spitter, because at the time of the ride was being constructed, there was an active war between Universal Studios and Disney. They were
Yeah.
going back and forth with like who's got the better ride. And they were going neck and neck with each other. So Jurassic Park came out, and it was like the big ride that kind of shut Disney down for a while. Not as a theme park, but kind of shut them down as the leader of the theme park wars. And as a jab to Disney, they put a Dilophosaurus in a raft that was chewing on the remains of like a faculty worker or something, and in the water you can see bobbing in the water is one of those Mickey ears hats. So, which is a great gag, and everybody that knew about that Easter egg would always look forward to seeing it. It stood in the ride right up to the day it closed, and now instead of that you just see high definition screens of Bryce Dallas Howard yelling the word assets like 5 or 6 times. And the thing that sucks is on a sunny day, you can't even see Bryce's face because the screens are reflecting the sun
Yep.
so much. So it's like, oh, that's a great reason to kind of get rid of this great, aspect of the ride for, TV screens that just don't.
Like, I'm pretty sure people were happy to have paid that money for that and
Oh,
experienced
no.
it.
It was so ridiculous. And we were just looking at there like, yeah, these are a lot of dumb choices that were done for this ride revamp, and it's just kind of soured my take. Like that, I think was the main blow for me when the franchise moving forward, because everybody's been supporting the franchise. I think for the same reason people were supporting the Transformers franchise.
Just because, more or less, I think. Because people just wanted to see dinosaurs, because most of the times people, when they go to see the JP film or JW film, it's... I mean, of course, I will get to the story part in a moment. We'll get to that once we're done with the theme parks. But I was gonna say that if you have dinosaurs in it, which is what attracts you to this franchise, then you would expect people, especially the die-hard fans who will just support anything with a logo on it. They will go for it. So I agree.
Yeah, well, it's I mean, those are what you could classify as kind of like bandwagon fans.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to be like that as well, to be honest. So I know exactly.
Oh yeah, I mean, all of us go through that phase. But to kind of explain why I'm doing the Transformer analogy, basically it comes down to an issue of quantity over quality.
Oh yeah.
So people that were supporting the Transformer films, and I did it right up to the second film, and then I kind of sat there and like, nah, I'm done. Which was you gave the first film. This is for Transformers, so you gave the first film a pass because I did legit enjoy the first film, and there were errors in it, but at the same time, I'm like, well, there's a lot of potential going forward for the franchise to fix itself.
Yeah.
And so you support it, and I was I was in my young 20s at the time, and it introduced me to Megan Fox, and she was a hottie at the time, so I'm like, yeah, sure, I can forgive a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And then you get the second film, and it's complete, like, just gutter trash. And that's usually when you jump ship. It's like, no, I'm done. And I did. I jumped ship. But there were a lot of people that still clung to it like a frightened child. That they're like, no, we're going to support it no matter what because it's Transformers and we love giant robots and blah, blah, blah. And now because these people kept supporting these schlock movies, we now got like 7, 8 of these films. Like, it wasn't until Bumblebee, I think, we got a decent film of what the first film probably should have been. So enter Jurassic Park, and it's kind of the same thing where Jurassic World came out. And for me, it was a hit and a miss for me completely, because the real stars of the movies are the dinosaurs, and they couldn't even they hired the visual effects team Legacy, which is formerly Stan Winston Studios, which is why it probably has the best looking of the animatronic dinosaurs. But it also has some of the worst of the CGI dinosaurs. Because I believe ILM at the time was busy working on Star Wars, so they farmed a lot of that work out. That's kind of why you see the dinosaurs that are CGI effects from Jurassic World, and you compare them to Fallen Kingdom, and there is kind of a quality jump that goes into Fallen Kingdom because ILM used more of their assets to do the CGI effects proper. But at the same time, we then had a reversal where Colin Trevorrow used Legacy to do the practical effects, as few practical effects as we got in the first film. But then they abandoned that team completely and went overseas to another effects company. You can tell there's a huge drop in the quality control because even though that effects team, I'm sure, is good at what they do, it's like it's a lot to ask of any company to kind of follow in the footsteps of Stan Winston Studios, especially when they were at their prime. And to date, it just hasn't been done like that. I've seen even the new images of these baby dinosaurs being done for the new film. And they look like the same quality of like the petting dinos you see at museums, which I've actually been able to puppeteer with the Kyoto brothers. Which it's like, yeah, it looks like a fun thing you take at a zoo to show kids pet a baby dinosaur, but it's not something you expect that's like movie quality for something that's a Jurassic Park franchise.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Here's another thing that I wanted to bring up an analogy. It's just to highlight how important it is to just show off the role that the Stan Winston crew, played in this. By the way, never mind the background noise here, guys, just because there's just stuff going on in the house right now. It's Sunday, so if you hear something weird, just ignore it. But anyway,
it's real, man. This is real time, bro.
Yeah, it's 100% real stuff. No edits, nothing, no cuts. Like what you hear is what you get.
It's uncensored, baby.
Yeah, and then explicit content of YouTube is gonna love this. And by the way, I'm not monetized, so I don't really care. I ain't got nothing to lose here, so it's fine. Basically, you know how Stan Winston team, because of how much they have established, this franchise in terms of the aesthetics. It's a bit like, asking somebody to try to replicate that is almost like asking somebody to try to remake Godfather in modern times. You're not going to be able to do that, and that's understandable.
Yeah.
But at least try better, like that's what I was going to say. Like, at least try better.
Yeah. Definitely. No, that's a valid point. That's an absolute valid point. Like, at least give it your best, man.
at least demonstrate that you can give it your best shot. Don't just... because I notice a lot of these things. It happens in many franchises that I fell out of love with as well. I'm not going to get into that here because this is a JP franchise only thing. But I do rant a lot about other stuff too, generally speaking. Like when it comes to just how many times I hear people from Hollywood when they go and talk about things. They talk about all sorts of things and they like to just like spit out 1,000 words. And yet when I look at the actual results, it's really not much. It doesn't really quite match up, For me, it's like less talking, more working, guys. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, and not only that, but it also kind of shows how doomed the future of the franchise really is, because we got this little kind of teaser short, which was like the Battle of Big Rock, and it kind of shows that like the studios are giving the current creators active windfall to kind of they're not being shy about pushing the franchise in terms of like, listen, this is going to become a kids show down the road. Like it's already become a kids show in most aspects because Battle of Big Rock, you had like, I don't think I've seen so many kids involved in a Jurassic Park film than I did in that one short, down to the crying baby.
Yeah. So can I just say something quickly? I just wanted to ask, are we happy to, in terms of the theme parks for now? Okay, shall we move on to this part now that you have touched it, or do you want to touch up on something with the parks as well? Before
I'd say the parks and the movies, the last thing I'll mention about the parks, and this will segue into the movies, is the main thing both of those aspects are suffering from is the lack of honoring the core creators and the source material of why these things are so successful. So the reason why Universal right now is probably going to be losing the war with Disney is because one thing that Disney does well is that they understand nostalgia. So they understand the nostalgia factor. That's why they have rumors that go generate their series that are still Disney aficionados, if not like just crack addicts, because the rides that they had in the 60s and the 70s and even the 50s are still there, and they're almost considered national treasures within the theme parks. Like you can find the old merry-go-round still, and you can find a ride like It's a Small World After All, and you can find a ride like you know, the Dumbo ride is a classic that isn't going to get changed. A Haunted Mansion is a classic ride that's gone through very little significant changes, shy of updating or trying to update certain effects. And even then, those updates have kind of went south with a lot of the diehards. But you still have kind of like a sense of, hey, they know that their archives and their history is just as cherished as any new properties that are coming out. Enter Universal, they don't care. They absolutely do not care. King Kong burned down, and mind you, King Kong's the one that kind of put them on the map in the war against Disney. And it took them no more than 2 seconds to decide, like, oh, we're just going to make it a 3D movie that kind of moves you around in the tram. And they did. And it's very underwhelming. And Jurassic Park is kind of following the same tentpole, where it's kind of like, hey, we're making it into a ride that's, you know, it has a lot more of these movie elements. Basically, Universal's transitioning to having rides that are actually very heart-stopping, like Earthquake the Ride, which is part of the tram tour. It's probably one of the most exciting things that you can be a part of, because it's all real stuff that's coming at you. They rig a train where it derails off the tracks and it swerves towards your tram, while a section of the freeway above drops down and a truck slide. It's all real stuff. It's all stuff that looks way better than if it's playing in a 3D movie. And that's what I think Universal has failed moving forward, is that they got to realize, if I'm going to pay money to see a 3D movie with air blowing in my face and water getting squirted on me, I could pay like $20, if not $35 a head to go see it at like one of these high-end theaters, versus paying like $100, $200 per head. Mind you, you have people with a family of 5, not counting parking, which is an additional $20 to just go see nothing but a theme park of 3D movies. They're not thinking forward in that aspect. They're not thinking forward of, they're going to be losing attendances because the rides that people grew up with aren't there anymore. And they're not thinking about, they're going to lose attendances because eventually, if the park transitions into nothing but 3D movies with very little to offer, why are you going to pay that money to see all those 3D movies? You know, it's like, it makes no sense.
No sense at all. No.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not going to pay $100 to go see a 3D movie. I'm going to pay $100 to see a 100-foot robotic dinosaur. That's why you have something like Jurassic World, the show, which has these giant animatronic dinosaurs. That show gets sold out everywhere it goes now. Like, it was the Walking with Dinosaurs show, and then it was the How to Train Your Dragon show. Now it's the Jurassic Park show. And it's sold out because it's showing audiences something real. And that's what the Universal execs don't get. Like, they're like, no, we can charge more and give them less, because that's just the studio mantra for anything. And there's a point where it's like, no, guys, the people from Australia that have made these amazing animatronics, and it's also sad that we won't be able to see those animatronics in the theme parks. We got to wait for them to be shown to us when they go on tour. And it makes you ask the question of, like, well, why didn't you just hire these guys to redo the theme park proper? And you're going to get a slew of people that are going to show up to watch these amazing robot dinosaurs, you know?
Yeah, no, I hear you. I mean, to be honest with you, it's just really in regards to obviously listening. I would say even now I don't want to get into this topic here because it's obviously unrelated, but I can make tons of arguments about Disney as well not really listening to their target audience, presumably. So it's kind of becoming more on the same ground at this point. I could just say at this point that Hollywood in general has lost their touch with their demographic and generally with their audience and with the so-called common people. I think outside of their own bubble, but that's a topic for a very, very long discussion on another time. But I mean, I think you may have heard at least more people say something similar, I would presume.
Oh yeah, no, I think the reason why it feels like Hollywood I mean, just to touch up on it really fast, but I think it comes down to the fact that Hollywood has shifted toward doing sequels or remakes versus doing original content, and people aren't happy with these sequels or remakes because they don't honor what's been established previously and why people liked those things. They're kind of more worried about like, well, what's trending socially and what's trending on Twitter, and let's just plug that into a new movie, but we're going to rename it an old franchise so we can trick all those audience members into buying a ticket, and it backfires. It backfires, and that's why people are seeing this and being like, hey, man, this doesn't... Hollywood's losing its way, and it's mainly because that's all the content that Hollywood has been putting out majorly. Like, they just keep revamping. I don't know if this is like the 20th time they've redone Batman, but yeah, they're doing that. And it's like, I'm cool. I'm cool not seeing another Batman movie for a while, guys. I can go without one. I really can.
Dude, we had I can go without any superhero movie, to be honest, for another 10 years. I wouldn't even think about it.
We had a good run. Give us a break. Do something new. Anything new.
I think they are hopefully they will start realize once the bank account balance is going to start showing the evidence to support this argument even more, and not just based on individual ticket prices or flops when they release a movie, but when they actually start seeing the overall picture, is that catering to the Twitter bubble and whatever's trending on Twitter does not equal to people actually buying tickets to see your movies in the theaters, because there are a lot of loudmouths on Twitter who are gonna demand things because they have reasons. Everybody has a reason, but they ultimately will not go to pay money. They will just complain, and they'll just move on and complain about something else, because their idea is about complaining. It's not about actually going and supporting the product, and that's what I think they don't realize. They don't understand it, and it's a sad thing. I used to grow up really loving the idea of how Hollywood used to produce these old school films. I rewatch some of them now, and I can say these are honestly good quality products, And Jurassic Park films are also part of that list that I would call good quality products, I have... you can have criticism, but they are still good quality products.
Yeah, and then to tie that whole conversation so we can move it forward, because I know we're both on a limited time factor, is, again, you have a studio that doesn't understand what their audience is going to enjoy as far as their theme parks, and then you have that translated over to the creators that currently control the franchise that don't understand why they enjoy these movies. So the thing about Jurassic Park that made it a tentpole film is, mind you have memorable actors. A lot of them were actors I didn't know at the time when I was younger. I didn't know about, Jeff Goldblum or Laura Dern or any number of the characters that were established in the first film. I didn't know them as actors because I was so young when the movie came out, but I knew them as those characters. But you wouldn't even know them as those characters if it wasn't for one thing specifically, which, again, you have a dinosaur movie about dinosaurs. And I guarantee you, if the dinosaurs came out looking like crap, you wouldn't remember that movie. Like, that would have been just like any of the number of dinosaur movies that came out. But you wouldn't remember that movie as being so pivotal if it wasn't for how the dinosaurs were executed and treated, and you were kind of being shown something that looks real. Like, to this day, people still say the scene with the T-Rex when it first shows up on the paddock, it looks like almost unnervingly real. And moving forward, it's kind of the same thing where it's like we got very few CG. We got very few practical dinosaurs in Jurassic World, but we got a ton of CG dinosaurs that looked very CGI. And that's the main reason why a lot of people, you might know the characters now because they've been bombarded upon us by Force over and over and over again. But when the film first came out, a lot of people couldn't even remember Chris Pratt's character. They kind of just kept calling him Star Lord because because he and that was me included. I was like, yeah, Chris Pratt, Star Lord's character, the guy with the raptors and the motorcycle.
The funny guy, that one.
Yeah, the everyday's guy, the guy's guy. And the reason why that's there is because the dinosaurs were never executed CGI. The majority of the dinosaurs they put on screen, which were the CGI dinosaurs, they didn't look good. Like they did not look good. And then moving forward into Fallen Kingdom, they try to trick you because again, not only did the dinosaurs not look good in the first movie, then there were we got more practical dinosaurs in the second movie, yes, but they weren't the practical dinosaurs we wanted. Like the studio listened to us, but then they listened to us by trying to go for the lowest bid in terms of like, well, we'll give you animatronic dinosaurs, but we're going to give you the cheap ones. But you'll be happy with this, right? Because we listened to you, but we listened to you on our terms. And it's like, no, dude. Like that's not.
Yeah, I am swallowing that.
Yeah, it's like that's not how that works, sir. And sure enough, you don't even I barely remember bits of the second movie because not only was the story schlock, and the dinosaurs looked terrible, but they also try to trick you with nostalgia. So they try to trick you with including all of this nostalgia. A lot of the trailer was promoting Jeff Goldblum, his character Ian Malcolm, as being a more pivotal role in those first trailers that came out.
It's like and 5 seconds in the movie.
Yeah, and he was pretty much the narrator. He became the Morgan Freeman of that movie. He was just there to narrate, and I was just sitting there like, oh, people are going to be pissed, and people were pissed. And I feel like the same thing is getting done with us in this new movie. Like they're leaning hard into nostalgia because they don't understand why those first three movies were so successful. Even the third movie was successful, just because of the simple fact that the third movie, which people regard as one of the worst movies until the new movies came out, and then I actually like the third movie better than the new movies. And it's because the dinosaurs still look phenomenal. Even if they're not scientifically accurate, even if they're mutants, even if they're hybrids, even if they're not up to date with today's science, as a movie monster, they still look better than, the CGI Indominus Raptor or whatever the hell it was that I was forced to watch for a good portion of the film doing Looney Tune gags, chasing people around an old man's manor.
I wanted to simply just say, since we already started this, do you want to say something specifically about how the story progressed over time and how it kind of felt initially for you in the franchise, and then how, as it went on up to basically to what we get right now? And you share your thoughts, and then after you're done, I'll share mine as well, so that the listeners can appreciate our input. So you go first. You go first.
Yeah. No, I'd say the story stopped progressing around the second film. So Lost World, I think, is where the story writing stopped completely, because you got to understand, Michael Crichton is the person that birthed the story. So he wrote the first one. The screen adaptation followed very close in suit with the first one, with as much material as they could fit in an hour and a half movie time frame. And then he wrote the second one, and the script actually swayed heavily away from the story that's in the book. But even then, the bones of it was still very Michael Crichton story, and the concept was very unique. It was like, you went from a theme park that failed into a game trail of trying to track down dinosaurs. And I think where it fell apart was in the third film, where the story, like, Michael Crichton wasn't involved. Steven Spielberg was just a producer. Basically, they went to the director of Jumanji to direct it, and on paper, it sounds like a good choice. It was kind of the same choice that on paper looks good, like when you went to the creators for Independence Day to do the new Godzilla movie back in the 90s. On paper, it looks good. It's a smart choice. And then you see what they did, and you see how it was not a smart choice. So we all know the 90s Godzilla movie is infamous for being one of the worst Godzilla movies. Um, and then we have Jurassic Park 3, which came out, I think, in 2000, 2001. And it was a bad Jurassic Park movie because the story is complete, like, schlock. You know, the story is like these parents who are terrible parents let their child go on a boat with a complete stranger to an island where people are known to get killed that's supposed to have been blockaded by the U.S. Navy and the UN Armed Forces. And now they kidnap Alan
Nobody
Grant.
was there, by the way.
Yeah, and the boat got through. Nobody's monitoring anything. And
Nobody cares.
nobody cared. And they're like, oh, who is this? A
kid's gonna
kid?
become a snack, whatever.
Yeah. A kid's parasailing? All right, I'll just chalk it up to the other, like, odd end kids that got snacked on. I don't know. And then they kidnap Alan Grant to force him to save their kid on the island while still suffering losses on their own. I'm just sitting there like, yeah, I think the story stopped here. And then I think we both went on our rants about Jurassic World in past videos where it's like, now we know the park was built on an active volcano, which seemed like some bad planning in hindsight.
Insurance
And now
claim.
insurance claim, yeah. Jurassic Park, the insurance claim. And then we go further into the non-sequential story, which is now the dinosaurs were taken to the mainland to get auctioned off for reasons. I don't know. And they clone a kid just so she can be a plot device to release the clone dinosaurs into the world. And now we have the new movie. Which...
Dude, I figured it out. You are not gonna believe this. I just figured this out. You know what's gonna happen? They're going to feed the clone. They're gonna feed the cloned kid after midnight, and she's gonna turn into a huge, like, dino hybrid of some sort or some shit.
I wouldn't doubt it. I think slowly. I think that can be slowly what Jurassic Park is degraded into. I think Jurassic Park is degrading into the Super Mario Brothers movie. So I don't know if you ever watched the Super Mario Brothers movie.
I've seen it. Yeah, it's just like.
So
it's a bad film, but it's a bad film I actually enjoyed. But it's still.
Yeah, I enjoy it too because I knew what it was. It wasn't trying to be anything serious, and I know a lot of the people that worked on it and all the behind-the-scenes stories. But yeah, I think at the end of Jurassic Park, it's finally just going to become the Super Mario Brothers movie, which is like we're going to have Dino Hatton with human dino hybrids running around, just trying to acclaim to society. The Indominus.
Yes. Next thing they're gonna do is they're gonna have, like, you know, people going out, you know, holding hands with dinosaurs as well.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I said, a King Koopa, we're gonna have like the Indominus Koopa at the end of Jurassic World. It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be the Goombas running around. It's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, we're gonna have to buckle up for that. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but no, there's no. Here's how much story there's not for me. Since the second film.
Yeah.
There's so much non-story. I don't know if you know about this, Arson, but a few people in our group did, and I had them do a rough read-through, but there's so much non-story that I've done something I haven't done in years. If not, I wrote my own. I finally caved. It finally brought me to my knees where I had to become one of those fanfic guys.
Yeah, yep.
And I just wrote my own. I was like, I'm just going to write my own sequel because I'll at least know...
Why would you not at this point?
Yeah, I needed to prove to myself, like, there's a way for this franchise to move forward that's not just, like, stupid. Like it doesn't...
Look at it this way. If all the current franchises have lost their touch and they've lost their standard, and clearly they lost their way, as you said it earlier as well, what makes one thing that you cannot just simply sit down and write a better quote-unquote fanfic story? If it is actually well written, if you can actually, like, revise it multiple times, reread it and proofread it, etc., then it's gonna become a very good story eventually because it's gonna get polished. And it's gonna get done right because you know what it needs to show. And that's the important thing. And they do not seem to understand what it needs to show anymore. And that's also important, which we just discussed earlier, but, it is what it is. At this point, fan fictions are gonna become better now, written by actual true fans who understand the story and the characters and everything and what it's about, than what the movie makers are gonna be making. That's just
Oh
what it is.
yeah. Yeah, and not only that, but like fan based films have been a long running thing. I think now they're becoming more. They're coming to the light more because YouTube is making it easier for people just to create content. But there's been fan movies of Godzilla. Like somebody made their own. I think it's called the Legacy Godzilla series. It was so good that Toho actually came and did a cease and desist to show it in any way or form, which says a lot when the show creators have to get involved and be like, "Hey, we can't have you doing something better than what we're doing, so we're going to just flag it." Same thing with
one of those things.
yeah, I think same thing with Dragon Ball. There was a Dragon Ball short that came out, that was a live action movie adaptation of the Android saga. And it was phenomenal. It pissed away whatever that live action Dragon Ball movie was. It just kind of ruined it. Same thing with Jurassic World. I mean, there were people that were super fans that did a Jurassic World fan short, and there was a lot of money that went into it. The dinosaur execution was limited because obviously they didn't have the budget for to do the animatronic dinosaurs, but still, it was like. It was somewhat more comprehensive than what the films were, where you had like a SEAL Team 6 type of situation. They had to infiltrate the island for all kinds of reasons. And I was like, yeah, that still sounds like more of a comprehensive story than the dino auction in Arizona, I guess. was the theme to Jurassic World called Fallen Kingdom. And I love Arizona, by the way. I have family out there. I take trips out there.
I haven't been yet, but I'm going to go someday.
It's a great place just to kind of get away, which I think all of us need to do right now. Just get away.
We should do our, what we should do? We should do our so-called corporative meeting of me, you, and like all other people from the chat and everyone else, Jeffrey and etc. Jason. We should meet. We should do a meetup in Arizona. There we go.
Oh yeah, it'd be great.
That'd be great.
But I mean, yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, after I saw this stuff being done, and I'm just like, you know what, I'm not saying I'm the next Steven Spielberg, but I also know I'm way better than like Joe Schmo telling me like, oh, hey, look at this screen of Bryce Dallas Howard on a ride in Universal that you can't see in the sun. You know?
Yeah. Oh my god.
But you're gonna pay $100 to see that screen and wait in a line for an hour. I'm like, yeah, who am I really mad at? Those guys are me for being the guy that's got suckered into it. So I finally buckled down and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna write my own. I'm gonna write my own, and then I might actually try to get. I might reach out to have people kind of audiobook it, because audiobooks are good, and right now everybody's just to date this podcast, just to date this YouTube video.
Yeah,
we should
whatever. It's technically a podcast because there is nothing other than a picture in the video. So.
Yeah, but I mean, we're actively in quarantine for one of the first worldwide pandemics that I've been a part of. So people are at home, right? Yeah, people are at home. They're trying to find stuff to do, and it's like, audiobooks and reading are kind of going to be the future, really. Because that's what I used to do, and I had a lot of time.
That's what everybody used to do, when you actually had some kind of, way to exercise your mind properly rather than just reading like nonsense that's going on Twitter. You can actually read something useful for a change, maybe, hopefully.
Yeah. No, exactly. So yeah, it's a great form of escapism. That's a more healthier form of escapism. So I think I might audiobook it. I might reach out to some people that I know just to see if they're interested. And then I might do one or few illustrations just to kind of make it like a legit production. And then we'll see what we can do with it from there. But for the most part, it's just like, oh my God, like it's sad that it's sad that the franchise has driven me to a point where I've had to write my own fan fiction. And it's kind of, It's something I never thought I'd do. Like, it's a point in my life where I never thought I'd be. You know
what? I'll tell you what we'll do. We will definitely, if you want to, once you're happy with how it turns out and when you're ready that you want to audiobook it and whatever. So when you're happy with the product, so to speak, we will definitely come back to it here on the channel and maybe give it a good run to sort of share it with the people, and just depending on how you want to distribute it, if you are going to. So we'll get into that at some point as well. I would really love to see how it gets, how it gets received, basically. You know what I mean? It would be
Yeah,
interesting.
no, no, definitely. And the one thing about it, which just to touch up on the pandemic real fast, I mean, the Jurassic World franchise has actually been put on hold because of the pandemic. Like the production has been put on hold, along with a bunch of other movies have been on hold, even movies that have had release dates, because we right now Los Angeles has a declaration from the mayor that any gatherings over 50 people are kind of outlawed for the most part, just to stop the outbreak. Um, Movie releases are being postponed for movies that have already been completed, because the studios are going to be taking huge losses in the box office if they release a movie and people can't go see it, you know? So that kind of gives me some time to kind of buckle down and hash this out a little faster, just for people that are curious and, maybe have that Jurassic World itch. They can read something new from, because I'm not the only Jurassic World fan fiction out there. That's the thing that was really refreshing to me. I had a concept, I wrote it down, and then I went back and read older fan fictions just to see if there was something I was tackling that wasn't really new per se, because I didn't want to be accused of, like, um, rehashing. So I didn't want to be accused of just doing a remake, pulling a Hollywood and just
Yeah,
doing a
yeah,
remake of a
exactly.
established story. And I went back and read some stuff, and I read some old script theories, and a lot of it didn't really touch up on the aspects that we were playing off of. So I was like, all right, yeah, I think I got an original enough story that I can move forward with it. So it'll move forward in the next few months, I believe, now that I have more time to get it done. you know.
Yeah, man, that will be great. We'll definitely have a good look at it. So, do you know what else I wanted to ask you quickly? And what are your thoughts on just generally the characters, yeah, in terms of, the originals versus the new stuff? I mean, I do have some of my problems even with the originals to a degree, but let's just say the movies 1 to 2. Movies 1, I think it's great. I don't actually have a problem with the characters. In movie 2, I have some problems, but they are awesome dinosaurs, so to me it's kind of a save. In movie 3, it's a downgrade, but you know what I mean. Like it's still kind of, because dinosaur effects are good, so I can just sit and eat popcorn, But
Yeah.
it's when I get to the sequels, like as of recent, the reboot, so to speak, is where I'm starting to have a bit more problems. And my personal problem here is that I don't like the fact that there's so much wasted potential there. There are some characters that I think could have actually been made really cool characters that we have not seen in the franchise before, and they could have really done something really amazing with all of them. Actually, all of them. I'm not even kidding. Even the kid characters in the 2015 movie could have actually had a better thing to do than just complain about their parents getting separated, split up, whatever. And I'm just saying. And I mean, Bryce's character Claire could have had a bit more to her. I mean, they did something, okay, so we do know a bit about her, and technically the kid characters are related to her, but they're still different characters because they have to have their own development. So there's another thing like that. And you know what I mean? Like Chris Pratt's character Owen Grady could have had more, although he's a good potential. The first guy who actually is trying to study the behavior of raptors up close than anybody has ever done before. That could have been a thing even more, in my opinion, if they actually did it right. There's like lots of stuff that they could have done. Or in the Fallen Kingdom, why did they not bring some of these characters back, to further develop them? And they just introduced like the diversity hire characters that are just completely out of place, terrible acting. Their character
Yeah.
arcs are inconsistent because one of them is just like a biologist who doesn't know that you cannot have two completely different species of animals' blood come together and somehow it's supposed to work because, oh, it's a dinosaur, therefore thing. It's like, what are
Yeah.
you thinking? What are you
I,
thinking? I was,
I,
but anyway, you tell me now, what are your thoughts from starting from the first movie and going, like just briefly going from first, second, third, etc., till to date, in terms of characters themselves. So, back to you.
I'd say, I mean, again, it goes back to the setup. A great ideal setup. You have a best-selling author with the best director at the time that was in the height of his power. You had one of the top screenplay writers at this. So you had a collective of three really good creative people that just kind of birthed this magical thing, which is why the characters are so well written and well done and well casted, which was the first film. And then you get to the second film, you still had the same author, still had the same director. I believe it was the same screenwriter. But you got to a point where they were so preoccupied with introducing new characters that were as memorable as the original characters that they kind of all suffered from being carbon copies of the main character. The main character was Ian Malcolm. And the second movie, you have Sarah Harding, which I thought was a great character. I'm actually surprised they didn't bring her back, but she was pretty much just mimicking Ian Malcolm mannerisms. And same thing with Eddie Carr and, you know, all these other character. They were all trying to play a game of like who can be the most sarcastic, which they all just kind of felt like 50 Shades of Ian Malcolm. Which is why I'm not really.
I was going to say the same thing. It felt like they could have done more with these characters, which had a lot of potential. That was my only problem with the second film as well, the characters.
And the most interesting character, shy of Ian Malcolm, who's the only guy that's legit reacting how he should on this island. He doesn't want to be there. He's trying to get out. Was Roland Tembo, which was the hunter.
My favorite, and R.I.P. I can't remember his name, but rest in peace. But great actor as well, brilliant.
Yeah, and he that's a character in the whole arc that I think could have been of its own. Like if he just had Ian Malcolm interacting with Roland. Both of them are there for different reasons. Like one wants to hunt the dinosaurs, one isn't there to hunt the dinosaurs, but they're both having to work together to get off the island. I think that would have been a much more fascinating film. And then you have the third movie, which suffers the worst because you don't have the original author. Michael Crichton was still alive at the time, but he just didn't come back. Steven Spielberg was a producer, but that was about it. That was the furthest of his involvement. And then you have the director from Jumanji who brought in his own writers. And you can tell that this is how backwards the writing was. The reason why Ellie Sattler was benched was because he would make a better stay-at-home mom character. That's the only reason why we see her as a stay-at-home mom character.
You know, I don't have a problem with her being a stay-at-home mom character. I have a problem with the fact that it retcons their progression of relationship with Alan. All of a sudden, everything was going great. By the end of the movie, Alan has warmed up to the idea of starting a family because she was actually giving him a bit of a like, are you sure you don't want to have kids? And he's like, nah, they smell. But then he kind of changed his mind. And I thought, okay, so maybe they ended up starting a family finally. And then I see this happening, and I'm like, who is this guy? Why is he here? Why are you not with Alan? You know, why is it not the same thing, but with you and Alan? That's what I pissed off. I'm not pissed off that she stayed at home. Personally, it's my... I know that you might probably would have thought that she would have been better in the field, but I think they could still end up in the field, and they could, like, maybe run their own, you know, big company, have kids who are maybe already grown up and doing part of the business, you know, things like this. But this is where I thought it was going, and then I see some random guy showing up.
Yeah, it's I mean, there's something to say about the natural progression of that relationship, which that's a whole other. If the movies were more focused on, you know, dramedies or relationships, this isn't a movie about relationships. It's a movie about dinosaurs. So
yeah,
what you had was
just felt like they just didn't do the justice to the characters personally. But that's me. I mean, I'm very picky. You know, I look at these things and I notice them, and then I cannot unsee them. But
yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, it's like if because what I'm doing is I'm stripping away these movies to their bare bones. The bare bones is they reduce the lead female character from being. Remind you, there was two strong female lead characters in the previous two movies, and then the lead female away from being competent, active, able to handle action, able to battle dinosaurs for both those characters to Leone, I think is the actress that was the screaming mom.
Yep, that's the one who kept screaming although she was told not to do it.
And that was her only role, was to run around the island, do stupid decisions, and then just scream in a megaphone. And the competent female character that we do remember, Ellie, was kind of benchmarked as like, hey, if you could stay and just answer a phone call and then send the army at the end of the movie so you could wrap this up, that'd be cool. And so that's where I kind of see like the degradation of the character arcs. Like
It
A
almost
lot
begs
of
the question: why not to do this from the get-go? Why, the moment they found the kid, right? Why not to just make the phone call straight away somewhere? I don't know.
I'll do you one better. Why even have a kid involved in the movies at all?
Well, yeah, I
Like
know, and because
yeah,
he's not gonna get eaten. We all know that kids don't get
yeah.
eaten in these
They're-
movies. That's
the kids are immortal in all the Jurassic Park
they wear the
movies. And
thickest plot armor like ever.
yeah,
It's like
like
made of adamantium of some shit.
the kids are such plot devices. The kid in Battle of Bidrock pulled a Walking Dead and shot the Allosaurus with a crossbow.
Yeah.
It's like that's how immortal these damn kids are. So I'm like, okay, I guess this is where we're. So yeah, no, that's and I think that's a kind of the cornerstone of why the movies haven't progressed. It's because they're always going to be focused on the kids. They're always going to be focused on making these movies child friendly, and there's going to be more kids and more kids. We already have a Netflix show called Camp Cretaceous, which is going to be more kids and more kids and more kids, and it's kind of at a point where it's going to be what it's going to be, and that's the future
Yeah.
of the franchise.
Yeah, here's another thing that I wanted to touch up on the latest ones as well. This is what I think is the problem. Like in the first, okay. So the good part is that on the first two films, yeah, you know how sometimes, of course, we already made it clear that these movies are meant to be really about dinosaurs. That's the bare bone of it, because without dinosaurs, nobody's gonna care about anything in these
Yeah.
movies. So we can accept that. So with that in mind, to kind of add a bit of a layer in terms of the character arcs, I still think that characters were very important though, like especially the first film. Like look at how much difference it makes to have very good characters. In fact, well, I mean, even if you look at every single one, Alan, Ellie, Malcolm, Hammond. I wouldn't even say much about kids, but there are some things that they've done with the kid characters because it was like considered a new thing. It was not something that was used over and over yet in that sort of regard, so you could still sort of get a little bit nervous about when the T-Rex was attacking or the raptors in the kitchen scene, that stuff.
Yeah.
Or where he got electrocuted, we thought that he was gonna, like, we genuinely were thinking, like, oh my god, is he really dead? Like, is it like an unexpected thing that he just pulled on us, So this kid just basically dies of being electrocuted, or, oh well, no, maybe not. Okay, no, he's alive. So you know what I mean, like. We were thinking all those things at the time when we were first watching it. Because
yeah.
I watched it first time when it first came out, this movie, because I was still a kid at the time. And to me, it was very relatable. It just kind of, maybe it came out at the very right time, for me to be at that age. And this was really different compared to something that I've seen in these last movies, where all of these characters, they're just completely empty. They're just there, like, as if they're just trying to fill the space, and they themselves don't even know what space they're filling, really. Aside from the diversity hire, of course, because diversity hire knows what they are, because everybody knows what it is. But it's even then, okay, fair enough. You've shoehorned these new characters that are completely pointless, useless, no development, nothing about them. Make them at least eaten, Get the dinosaurs to eat them, so they can serve something, But they didn't even do that. If anything, in the third film, I can only say that I'm grateful that they at least managed to eat some of the characters, feed them to the dinosaurs, so to speak, because that was at least something that I was enjoying to watch. I enjoyed seeing them getting totaled. Okay, I'm a cruel guy when I watch these movies. I want dinosaurs to, to basically destroy you. In fact, I actually felt like the second movie, the cool scene at the camp when there was a T-Rex head close up in the tent.
Yeah.
Remember that scene? So
Yeah.
that was like a really intense scene as well. And but that whole scene, I actually wanted when when the T-Rex is when everybody starts panicking. I kind of wanted there to be more fatalities, to kind of really turn it into almost like a bloodbath, but without obviously the visual graphics for it, but just so that we know that there's a higher body count. That's the kind of what I wanted a little bit more of, personally. But
No, I think it's alluded to because it's absolute chaos.
There's
that
one
whole
guy
thing.
who gets stepped on as well, by the way. And
There's the one guy
blood,
that stepped on. I'm sure there's a few guys that got chomped. You got to remember, like a human body doesn't. It's like a chicken nugget to a T-Rex.
Yeah, exactly.
So
With
I'm
bones.
sure he had. Yeah, I'm sure he had himself a 10 or a 20 piece before he started chasing people.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, it's like you touched up on something which I can tell is the studio executive mindset, and
Yeah, go for
for
it.
for a studio executive, it doesn't make sense, but it's just how they think. They think in terms of demograph. So the way they look at character development now for these new movies is if we have these demographics represented in the movies, that'll equal ticket sales, and we'll get more bang for our buck in the revenue.
Oh
So
boy, how many
the
times do
biggest
we have to debunk this argument, right?
Yeah. So the biggest, but that's what we got to talk about because, like,
Yeah,
I was a
yeah.
kid. I was a kid when I saw the first movie too, and I did relate to the kid characters. But that's the thing is because it was a first movie, so we legit didn't know the pattern of the franchise. Now we're 3, 4, 5 movies in. We know the pattern of the franchise, which is if you're a kid, you're immortal because they've done it for 4 to 5 movies, and they're going to keep doing it in the movies because the Universal execs think that if unless a child is involved in a movie, it can appeal to children, even if it's about dinosaurs. Mind you, if you're a 30-year-old man and you talk about what do you do or what's your interest, and you say dinosaurs, society already tent poles it as something associated with children, even though it's a legit field of science.
Yeah, I
So
collect dinosaurs and I paint toy soldiers. So there you go.
yeah, but that's how the studio execs are so backwards. It's like, well, we're working on a subject matter that's society as a whole, not everybody, but society as a whole sees as more of a child orientated field, which is the field of dinosaurs. But that's not enough to relate to children. So we're going to keep sticking kids on it. Mind you, I saw King Kong when I was younger. I saw The Land That Time Forgot when I was younger. I saw the original Lost World when I was younger. None of those movies have kids in them. The only reason that I was
Yeah,
interested in them was because it had dinosaurs. That was it. The original Godzilla,
same here.
shy of the entire town burning, there was no like single child star that was in danger the entire time.
No, no.
Um, and then look at the new Godzilla movies. We had a child star. I love the actress from Stranger Things, but she was in the movie just to have kids relate to the movie. That was about it.
Yeah, of course. It must have worked on my inner kid. I'm pretty sure it did magic for that. Although, we all know who the real star of that last movie was. That was Kevin Richard Dorton. Shout out to you, mate.
Yeah. All hail Kevin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, in case you haven't caught up, guys, watch that video. It's actually on my channel banner there, so you will see it. It's in your face. So click on it before you understand the reference. Yes, yes,
So,
precious.
but yeah, no. If anything, though, I'm gonna wrap up real fast because I'm getting flagged by a few people for day-to-day shenanigans that I gotta go run and do.
Yeah, no worries. I think. Are you personally happy with what we have touched for this one, or?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
what we got is cool. What I'm gonna do too is I'm gonna send you a link, which was my complete review of the new Jurassic Park ride. So if you want to include that in the description, but it kind of breaks down everything about the ride
Yeah.
that I've seen firsthand for those people that are curious about why I hate the new ride so much and why it just fuels the fire of my hate for the new franchise to a passion. Uh,
Let the hate flow through you, my
yeah, let the hate
apprentice.
flow, man, and those are all my good reasons there. So I'll send you that link, and
Do
then
it.
yeah, sure enough, the video interview of Kevin we did was phenomenal,
Yep.
and
Richard was amazing as well.
yeah, Richard was amazing. And then yeah, beyond that, I think we still have other videos to shoot for other subject matters. So yeah, we'll start getting those out. People are gonna have time to see them now.
Yep. Great stuff, man. Great stuff. So, shall we wrap up then? So, guys, thanks very much for watching. George, thanks for coming. We will definitely see you in part 2. And enjoy the rest of your day and stay safe with all this craziness with the pandemic going on. Josh, any last words?
No, yeah, just the same thing. Stay safe out there, guys. Don't go outside if you don't need to. We will give you as many videos to keep you staying inside.
Exactly, that's what
And
we do here, innit?
yeah, and Jurassic Park rules. Jurassic World sucks. That's all I gotta say.
Right? Yeah, these are the hashtags. Let them roll. Yeah, right. Okay, cool. Well, thanks very much, guys, and we'll definitely speak to you in the next one. Until then, ciao. Rex out, Josh out.